Hey guys, pardon the mess. Kind of doing a lot of work today, so we're gonna pick up where we left off. Um, Everything just kind of culminating to this one story. Uh, Gone through, being pregnant, having Gabriel, not dating, raising Gabriel, dating while raising Gabriel, and then raising Gabriel with somebody else. So being a mom at this point was just a lot of me and Gabriel. Gabriel was kind of the central one, mostly because he's my only child. He's the only one that I was responsible for. And when we got married, when me and Chris got married, we knew we wanted kids. We knew we wanted to have kids and to grow our family. With having Gabriel, I knew going in that there was going to be a lot that went into that. It wasn't going to be your run of the mill, get pregnant, have a baby. That wasn't exactly how it was going to go. There was going to be a lot more involved. And I knew that. I knew that going in. With Gabriel being early, and we knew why he was early, with me having an insufficient cervix, he was born early because of that. So preterm labor can be caused by a number of things, preeclampsia, different kinds of things. For me, it was cervical insufficiency. So I knew any subsequent pregnancy that was going to be a concern. And I knew I was going to be high risk. I had seen some other women on different mom groups on social media looking to kind of try and figure out what I would need to do to prepare myself. So, first thing I knew going into another pregnancy, I was going to have a cerclage, which is just a stitch that will hold my cervix. And then I was also going to be monitored closely. So, I we had originally, right after we got married, we knew. I mean, before we got married, we knew, but after we got married, we knew, pretty soon we were going to be trying to have a baby. And it was, we got married in October. We had the rest of the year, holidays, things like that, and we moved into the next year, into 2021, and we had a big freeze. It was right around Valentine's Day, and right around that time, we had decided we were going to start trying. Just kind of not doing anything in particular to try to get pregnant, but just trying, just see how it goes. We did not have to try hard. We got pregnant right off the bat. So pregnancy was just, it was easy for us to get pregnant. But there was still a lot of anxiety around it. So I knew I was going to have to be high risk. So I knew for sure I didn't want to see a regular OB-GYN. I chose to find a maternal fetal medicine doctor, someone that would specialize in my specific scenario, my specific issues that I had. So my cervical insufficiency. And looked around trying to find kind of which doctors would work best in the area, who took my husband's insurance, things like that. And we found Dr. Kershon. Dr. Kershon took care of us really, really well. He made sure that we had everything that we needed. Um, and we didn't have any concerns with that. He, great bedside manner, crossed his T's, dotted his I's, really took care of us. So right off the bat, as soon as we found out, I scheduled an appointment with him, which I had heard that it was a hard time getting an appointment with him. It really wasn't. It was pretty streamlined. I called, talked to them, set up an appointment, did all of the early on pre-registration paperwork, things like that, whatever it was. And then 8 weeks, I was in to see the doctor. So nothing really of concern there. Before I went into the doctor, I was about 5 weeks pregnant, and I was having a lot of bleeding. And it was more than I was used to, more than I was aware would be happening. I was concerned. I did go into the emergency room pretty early on, just to make sure that baby still had a heartbeat, and he did. I was just really, really scared about that because that was, and people say it's normal, it's normal, it's normal, but you don't know what's normal and what's not. And at this point, with what happened with Gabriel, I'm not chalking anything up to normal. Anything for me was a concern. So, we dealt with that early on. We got to the 8-week visit and we just kind of squared it away from there. We were going to be seen pretty regularly. We were going to have plenty of testing done, blood work done, screening, things like that. I am diabetic, so I did not have to do the glucose testing just because I'm already diabetic, but the doctor was treating me for that as well. So that was taken care of. I had a couple medications that I was taking early on. I ended up having to switch. Those medicines were not safe to take during pregnancy. And I haven't started taking them again. So I'm still off those. We got pregnant, started seeing the doctor. Uh, Unfortunately, with the health situation and protocols and policies, things like that, my husband was not able to go with me to our first doctor visit, but I was able to video chat with him during the visit, so he was kind of able to be a part of that. Uh, Once the doctor gave the okay and said we were good to go, I went ahead and called him, and he got to watch the ultrasound. He also got to hear the first heartbeat. So that was a really special moment. It wasn't exactly how we wanted it to be, but we were okay just because this was what was best for everyone involved, especially in the middle of a pandemic. So um, going forward, the only thing that I had concerns of was work. I knew working in a daycare, it requires a lot of activity. Kids require a lot of activity. They require a lot of energy and you have to do a lot. They're kids. So I knew early on that I was going to have some restrictions. And then further on down the road, my first doctor visit was at 8 weeks. And I did get a cerclage placed that was at 12 weeks. And after my cerclage was placed, I was placed on restrictions. So I was on complete pelvic rest, no swimming, no taking a bath, none of that. And I wasn't able to lift more than 10 pounds. Because I wasn't, there was a lot of things that I couldn't do. For instance, I couldn't change all of the kids' diapers. I couldn't be lifting tables and moving them, things like that. Which is not something that we had to do all the time, but there was occasions where we had to move things. And those were things that I wouldn't be able to do. And my boss was really good about working with me on it. She was, super understanding of, exactly what my situation was. So I was really appreciative for that. I worked as much as I could. I was there as much as I could. I did have two of my coworkers. So my boss and one of my very good friends, Haley, she ended up pregnant same time as me. And then my other very good friend, Belinda, who I also worked with, she was pregnant. Actually, she found out she was pregnant, right, I guess before I did. So she was due about a month and a half before me. And then Haley is due sometime next month. So we're looking forward to that. But we all were pregnant simultaneously. And that was hard because I knew I had restrictions and I felt bad sometimes because they didn't technically have any restrictions. They could do almost anything else, but I understood that they would need to have certain restrictions placed on themselves, or at least be able to take it easy. Whereas, I was able to do that from the get-go, but they still were really great about, working with me and things that I could and could not do. And I would work as much as I could. If they needed me early, I went in early. If they needed me late, I would stay late. So I tried to be as present as possible while I was working, but also pregnant. Um, that was March-ish, is whenever I announced to the girls. We announced to everybody later on, so that was going to be more in like April, May-ish, is whenever we notified everybody else at work. And then we just kind of enjoyed the pregnancy. Gabriel was born at 25 weeks, so until I got to that point, I kind of held my breath, but it was good. After I had my cerclage placed, every doctor visit after that, the doctor would check my cervix and see kind of what the length is looking like. Was I funneling? Was anything like that going on? And pretty consistently through my pregnancy, my cervix stayed pretty long and strong. We didn't have any concerns on preterm labor due to that. So that was good. Um, we just kind of kept monitoring it and just waited. Once we got to 25 weeks, I was kind of able to exhale and breathe and just completely enjoy the pregnancy. With Gabriel, I missed a lot of things. I didn't get to do a baby shower. I didn't get to do maternity photos. I didn't really get to do anything. I didn't even look pregnant when I had him because he was so early. So with this baby, I was intending on doing everything. We did a gender reveal, we did baby shower, we did maternity photos, we did boutique 3D ultrasound, we did the works. And I wanted to be very intentional with doing all of that. I didn't want to regret missing out on any of it, and I'm glad I did. I'm super super thankful that I did. Um, Closing in on the end of our pregnancy, we did all the things. You know, the maternity pictures were fun. I finally had a bump that I could really kind of say, "Hey, I had a baby bump." Which was great. And I got to do that with my husband and with my son. So they got to be a part of that as well. And pictures were absolutely beautiful. Got to do the 3D ultrasound as well. I went to the 3D ultrasound on a Monday. I remember it was a Monday night. My husband met us there after he got off work, and the pictures of him were precious. He had the chunkiest cheeks and long hair, and he just foot in his mouth the entire time. So happy to have his foot in his mouth. Um, and we got some pictures. The pictures that we have, he looked absolutely identical. So 3D ultrasound, bar none, best thing I ever did. That was on a Monday. On Tuesday, I had a doctor's appointment with my regular doctor, Dr. Kershon. And again, we went through same thing as usual. You know, we had the ultrasound. That was actually the one time that he didn't check my cervix, just because at this point I was so far along that there was no sense in checking it because he was at a point where he would have been okay. So they didn't check my cervix. They checked everything else. Nothing really out of the ordinary. The doctor or the nurse, I guess the ultrasound tech had to press kind of hard to get a good picture of him and the things that she was trying to get a picture of. And it did make me feel sick. So that was the one ultrasound that I actually didn't get to go through entirely because I felt so nauseous for whatever reason. And they checked heart rate and breathing and everything else, and it all looked good. That was on a Tuesday. At that point, the doctor had said, uh, you know, we are probably going to have to deliver early. I'm going to have you come in next week. We'll go through this, that, and the other, and then we'll deliver the following week. And I was like, okay. And we had agreed that November the 5th, we were going to go ahead and go in, have a scheduled C-section, and deliver that day. And we never got to that day. That was on a Tuesday that we had decided everything. I was going to go in the following Wednesday and then go back in the following Friday. Went through the week. Nervous, of course. You know, we're very close to bringing our baby home. And Saturday, that Saturday we had a work thing where, you know, yearly the school that I worked at, what they would do is they would treat the employees that had been there a significant amount of time. So 3-year plus employees. And what we were doing this time is it was kind of a spa day. So we were going to go and get facials, massages, just kind of to treat ourselves. So I got to do that on Saturday. It was a busy-ish day, so I don't really remember kind of noting anything regarding my pregnancy. Um, that was on Saturday. Sunday morning, I woke up. Now, Luca was always very active. He was a very active baby. always kicking, always moving, always rolling, and I hadn't felt him. I couldn't remember the last time I felt him, so I knew it had been a while. And I was up that morning and had a flashlight trying to get him to move. And I got ice cream early in the morning, trying to, maybe sugar will up him a little bit and soda maybe. I tried some soap. Nothing was working. He was not, to me, he was not moving like I thought he should. Um, I thought maybe he was moving, but just a little bit, but I couldn't tell if it was him or if it was in my head. Um, and it concerned me. At this point, I'm 35 weeks, and I don't know. Nobody, I mean, the doctor never told me to count kicks. I know that it's a thing that people do, but I was never told to do it. I did do it a couple of times on my own just to kind of get an idea, but he was always such a good kicker that I wasn't really concerned with it, and I wasn't sure at what point to be concerned with it. I never really got talked to about it. So trying to get him to kick. He's not moving like I want him to. I want him to give me those big giant kicks like he would. He's just not doing it. So I called the doctor's office, and the doctor on call, I had told her, because he was measuring big. He was measuring way, way ahead of schedule. So I thought, maybe he's running out of room and he can't move because there's nowhere to go. And the doctor told me that that's actually not correct, which I did not know. I don't know where I had heard it, but that is not correct. Babies that are active further on in the pregnancy, their activity does not decrease. They are just as active and they move just as much. The movements are just different. So instead of a sharp kick, you might feel a roll, but they'll move just as much. So at this point, I'm saying, okay, well, he's not. So I'm concerned. The doctor said, you need to come in. We're going to tell them that you're coming in and to expect you. You're going to go to the OB emergency department. They're going to see you. So called my mom, told her what was going on, got everything in the car ready to go just in case we were delivering early, which is not unheard of. And I took my son to my mom's house. I said, Mom, I'm gonna leave him with you. She said, it's gonna be fine. It'll be fine. You're just gonna go check on it. Just go check on it and be fine. I said, okay. So drove to the hospital, and I had I had actually placed a grocery pickup order for that morning at Kroger, and I had to call them and tell them, please cancel it, never mind, because I wasn't going to be able to pick it up. So got to the hospital, trekked our way through to OB emergency department. They got us in a room, and right away they wanted to put the monitor on my belly, just to find his heartbeat, see where he's at. And they had a really hard time finding it. They said that because he was breech, they were having a hard time finding landmarks, things like that. So we waited and waited and waited, and the lady moved it, and she added more of the ultrasound gel, and she palpated and everything else. And they did find a heartbeat. It was very, very faint, and we had thought that it was his. Now knowing it was more likely than not mine. It was my heartbeat. So they looked and looked and they couldn't find anything. They brought in the little ultrasound machine. They worked with that a little bit and again couldn't find anything. So then they had to call radiology. Radiology came with big giant machine and it had the screen just like you see on ultrasounds. Now, again, I went through several ultrasounds where I kind of had a pretty clear idea of what I was looking at, what I was seeing, and what was on the screen. So when radiology was doing the ultrasound on me, I was watching the screen to kind of see what they were seeing. I could see my baby. I could see where his heart was. You can see pretty distinctly the four chambers of the heart, and it was not moving. It was still. At that point, uh, I knew what was happening. And I think my husband knew too. He said that, with the nurses coming in, they were, getting needles and medication and IVs and everything else ready. So he said that he kind of knew too, but we didn't have confirmation. The doctor's talking to me and I'm trying to make sense of it all, but I only had one thing on my mind. What is the status of my child? Like where are we at? And the doctor is trying to explain to me that, with him being breached, they're having a hard time finding landmarks and figuring out what exactly they're looking at. But when it is this hard to find a heartbeat and they have not found one, it is not likely that they will find a heartbeat then afterwards. And I asked the doctor, "Is my baby gone?" And she said yes. So at that point, I was crushed. I I broke. I broke down. There's there's nothing that can prepare you for hearing that from a doctor. Um, I distinctly remember when the doctor said yes, he was gone. I didn't see, I couldn't look, but my husband was next to me, and I heard the the pain that he went through just in that moment, losing our child. And it was just earlier that week that we had been to the doctor, that we had seen his heartbeat, and we had, heard his heartbeat, and we knew he was okay. He was fine. And I remember repeating over and over and over again, he was fine. He was fine. But this day, he was not fine. He was gone. So that was probably about 8, 8:30 in the morning, um, when we were given that news. Uh, Slowly but surely, we had nurses coming in and doctors coming in. Once we did find out that he was gone, they did leave the room. They left us uh, to kind of have a moment of privacy. And my husband and I, we just held each other. There was nothing we could do. I couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything. We just lost our child, and there's nothing that tells you what to do next. Um, no idea what to do next. So I I asked my husband to hand me my phone. I called my mom, and I probably traumatized her. I called her, and I don't remember what I said. I remember calling her. When she answered, I just said, "He's gone. He's gone. He's gone." And I don't think she knew how to respond. I don't think it really had kind of made sense to her at that point. I asked her to call Haley and tell her. I knew Haley would tell Belinda, so I didn't have my mom calling everybody. I just had her call Haley and tell her. And she did. She called Belinda, told her. And then Belinda would then tell her husband and my husband are very best friends, or at least that's my husband's best friend. So, everybody that we knew would be told. Um, I knew that they would have to because he was breech, I was going to have another C-section. That was non-negotiable. Uh, and they had to get an OR ready. They didn't have one ready, so they had to get one ready. And we waited a good long while. Like I said, that was about 8:30 in the morning, and the OR wasn't close to prepped until about noon, maybe a little later. Um, so we just we sat for what seemed like forever in the OB emergency department, and I sat there carrying my lifeless child, and that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. That that was a point in my life that I'd like to never go back to, um, but I can't. That part of my life is ingrained in my brain. I can't forget it. Um, my husband stayed with me, and he felt as much as he could feel in the moment, and then he some point decided it was time to be strong for me. I was about to have to go through major surgery and deliver my child that was gone. There was a lot of things that I had I had done early on. I had got a birth plan that I wanted to do. At least I wanted to kind of follow by. Um, Things that we had prepped and got ready with Gabriel. We didn't really have anything, ready. He was so early. With Luca, because I was so close to delivery, we had everything ready. Hospital bag, nursery, everything was pretty much ready to go. Um, and I just sat there for hours and just tried to contemplate what was happening and why was it happening to me. And there's no answer to that. There's no answer to why it was happening to us. There was no answer to why we are going through this. Um, got through waiting. They got me in a gown. They wheeled me up. Um, my husband stayed with me, and I remember asking the doctor, "Can my husband stay with me?" At this point, I did not want to be alone at all. And he was able to be with me for the most part. The only time that he was not able to be with me was whenever they were actually doing my epidural and prepping me for surgery. They did bring him in once I was prepped and ready. So he only spent about maybe 15 minutes away from me. The rest of the time he was right there. Um, but like I said, there was things I wanted to do in this pregnancy. I wanted my husband to be able to cut the cord. I wanted to do skin to skin. I wanted to breastfeed, and I didn't get to do any of those things. They did give me the option of seeing him after he was born, and I couldn't do it. I requested that they take him and clean him up and get him dressed and wrapped and everything else, um, because I knew seeing him lifeless was going to be hard. Seeing him in that state would have made it harder. So I needed him to at least be kind of bundled and just the way I envisioned him being. Um, that's what I wanted. So we uh we delivered, and I remember them wheeling him out. So he was born October 24th. It was 1:11 p.m. He was 9 pounds and 2 ounces. So he was a chunk. He was a very chunky baby. And after they wheeled him out, they took out my stitch, which I knew was going to have to happen. They took out my stitch. They they finished up my surgery. They sewed me up, and they got me ready and wheeled me out. And it was almost like it was around the corner. They wheeled me out of OR and directly into another room. Now, when I got out of surgery, everyone that I knew was there. My mom, my dad, my aunt, uh, both of my friends. Belinda's husband was there. The people that I wanted to be there, they were all there. We had asked Gabriel early on, and that was a hard decision. I knew we were going to have to tell Gabriel what had happened. And I asked my mom, and it was probably the biggest ask I've ever made to her. But I asked her, can you? I said I can't tell him what happened. I can't. I don't know how to tell him that his brother is gone. And I trusted that she would tell him what he needed to know, and she would tell him how he needed to hear it. And I told her, I said, if he wants to be here, he's welcome to be here. I don't want him to miss it. I don't want to tell him he can't come, but I don't want to tell him he has to be here. I want him to decide. So if he wants to, bring him. If he doesn't, that's okay. My little brother, he could not handle it. You know, he was distraught. So Gabriel went back and forth. Eventually, he decided that he didn't want to. He just wasn't comfortable with it, and that's okay. So my little brother kept him at home, and everybody else was at the hospital with me. When they wheeled me in, he was in the little baby bassinet like they have at the hospital, and I remember seeing him, and he was so fat. He had these fat little cheeks. And they wheeled me in, and he was right next to me. And they asked me, "Do you want to hold him?" I wasn't ready. I couldn't. I told my mom she could hold him if she wanted to. She did. Picked him up, held him, and everybody just kind of passed him around and loved him. And at one point, she did hand him to my husband who's never held a baby. And he did so good. He did so good. I finally decided that I was ready. So my mom brought him to me and put him in my arms. And he was perfect. He was beautiful. He was just gone. He didn't stir, he didn't blink, he didn't breathe. But he was beautiful. We spent as much time with him as we could. I had his hospital bag with his outfit that he was supposed to go home in. My dad had picked. I gave that to the nurse, and they went to go clean him and dress him. They also called a Catholic priest to come in to bless him and to say a prayer. So everybody stayed as long as they did, as long as they could. And then when everybody left, it was just me and my husband. They brought him back in, and I didn't hold him. After they brought him back in, I let him just kind of lay in his little bassinet thing. The priest came in. He said a prayer, a couple prayers, blessed him, prayed with us. The nurse stayed and prayed with us, and they made a point. We can't keep bringing him back and forth, and it's not good. With his little body deteriorating as we speak, it's best if you just say your final goodbyes. So I looked at my son, and I told him I loved him. And then they took him. They got us a box, had a hat, a lamb. They made us some handprints and footprints in a clay mold. They had a card in there that had some pictures on it, footprints, things like that. It was about the size of a shoebox, and that's all we had. After that, they did take us to postpartum. Um, there was a sign on the door. It's not a giant sign, it was just a little card. Um, it was a purple card, kind of signifying to other people that while these people just had a baby, they are grieving. They lost their baby. So anybody that went in would know. Um, so we stayed in the hospital. Again, I had a C-section, so it was going to take me some time to recover. I stayed in the hospital for about 3 days. Uh, my husband stayed with me the entire time, encouraged me to get up, walk around, uh, eat, things like that, drink water, uh, to kind of get my energy back and to heal as best I could. Um, after a few days, uh, my friend Belinda, her husband, which is my husband's friend, they came down to the hospital because I had driven my truck there. I couldn't drive home, and my husband didn't feel comfortable driving my truck uh, with me. So his friend came down, or I guess up to the hospital, uh, and he drove my truck. His wife took him and dropped him off, and he drove us home. Went to my mom's house, and I stayed there for a little bit until I was ready to go home. Um, and after that, it was a lot of it was a blur. They don't tell you how to plan for burying your child, but a lot of people stepped up. We had parents donating the uh, from the school that I worked at. Friends and family were donating. There was meal trains set up. We had significant donations from several organizations. I'm not going to say who, but people that understood that we were going through something that no parent should go through. My husband's friend, his dad actually works at the cemetery, and they set up getting us a plot in the baby section with all of the children. Um, so we were able to bury him. I wouldn't have known where to start, but uh, November 2nd, we did lay him to rest uh, at Houston Memorial Gardens. We've had issues with them since then, but it's neither here nor there. Uh, but yeah, that's the end of it. Was a lot. It was a lot going on as far as talking to people, figuring out things, scheduling things. And then it was only a couple weeks after he was born, my husband went back to work, and everybody else's lives carried on. And I stayed at home. I had maternity leave until mid-December when they cleared me from the doctor. So I had all that time to just be at home. Some days I would go to the cemetery. It's not that far, it's right up the road, so maybe about 5 minutes, if that. I would go to the cemetery and see him, spend some time with him. Sometimes I would get out of the house. I knew I couldn't just kind of mope at home, and I knew it wasn't healthy to mope at home. I would go out to the store, wherever, try and figure out, what are some things I can do. Maybe I can pick up a hobby, something like that. But I would have to get out of the house. I would go by work sometimes, as much as people don't want to be at work. I found solace being at work, just being with people that understood why I felt the way I felt, and that I would feel a certain way. So that was helpful. Uh, but I just kind of went through 2 months after that, and then I went back to work, and work closed. I didn't expect that coming, but um, the day I returned to work, my boss, she she announced that she was going to be closing the daycare permanently, and I was going to be effectively out of a job. Um, but I knew, after what happened with Luca, everybody said, if you get pregnant again, we're going to put you in a bubble, and we're not going to let you do this, that, and this and that. And I knew that. I knew that was going to happen. So my husband had decided that after, and I struggled with it. I said I need to go back to work. I need to be working. I need to be contributing. And I finally understood that I needed to take care of me. I needed to focus on me. With Gabriel, I was pregnant and I worked the whole time. With Luca, I was pregnant and I worked the whole time. And my husband is insistent we are going to have a baby. And I am determined I am going to have a baby. Now, we did. We got pregnant. We went through pregnancy. We had a baby. But we didn't get to bring that baby home. We have bottles. We had diapers, pacifiers, onesies, blankets, car seat, bouncer, crib, changing table. We have everything that we need for a baby. We have no baby at home. Our baby is in heaven. That is where our baby is. So at my last doctor visit, the doctor had said, do you want to have children? Do you want to have more? Do you intend on getting pregnant again? I said, actually, my question is, when do we get to try? How long do we wait? And I had looked online, at this point, we want to have another one. It's not that we want to replace Luca. Nothing will ever, nor will anyone ever replace him. But we so badly want to bring a baby home. And it feels like that was taken from us. So we intend to try again. And I asked the doctor, when can we try again? I know I had read online, a lot of doctors say wait 6 months, some say 12 months, some say 18 months, some say 2 years. I said, I don't know that I can wait 2 years to have a baby. I can't. I I don't even know how to wrap my mind around that. And our doctor said, after 3 months, your uterus is pretty much healed. If you feel confident that you can try again in 3 months, then 3 months it is. He said, if you don't feel like you're ready, then don't try again. But if you feel like you're ready in 3 months, you can try again. I said, well, I know that there's a concern with the uterine rupture. He said, well, in any pregnancy, it's going to be a C-section. You're not going to have a VBAC. And I said, I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. C-section is pain that I understand. I know the pain of a C-section. So I understand it. I'm going to stick with it. So he said, okay, 3 months, which coincidentally is Monday, this coming up Monday. So we have gone through having a baby, losing a baby, hardest thing I've ever done. But there was no reason. There was no cause that we know of. The doctor had said, we don't know why this is happening, but I encourage you to do an autopsy. You need to do an autopsy so that you'll know what happened, and that way you can avoid it in the future. Doing an autopsy, there was no guarantee that we would know what happened. There's no surefire we're going to know. And I couldn't bear the thought of them doing an autopsy and it being for nothing. I knew going in, especially whenever we went to OBED, that on the radiologist had said that there was an accumulation of fluid in his chest cavity, specifically around his heart and lungs. And the doctor that was on call said that it could have been a number of things. It could have been an infection that, was just like a regular cold to me, but to him, it was fatal. It could have been something genetic. There was a number of things it could have been. And there's no guarantee that they were going to find out what that was. And with a lot of stillborns, that happens. They don't find out what the cause was. It's not known. He didn't have his cord wrapped around his neck. He didn't have a true knot. There was nothing wrong with the placenta that we were aware of. So there was really nothing that we could do to find out what it was. And at this point, my biggest thing was I didn't want to know, because I didn't want anyone to feel like they could place blame. I know the doctor had asked, did I fall? And at work, I did fall, but it was several weeks earlier. So, we had been to the doctor since then and he was fine. But I didn't want it to be, it was this, work was the reason, or it was this, something that's somebody else's fault. I didn't want anyone to place blame, and I didn't want myself to have any room to blame myself, because I knew that was going to throw me into the worst downward spiral. So at this point, I said, no, I don't want an autopsy. I'm comfortable with the information that we know now going forward. I said, I want to leave it at that. So moving into having another baby, it will be a factor, but we won't know to what degree. We're just going to have faith and pray. That's all we can do. But that is the story of the birth of my second child, my Luca. He is the baby that we lost. So now we start our next journey, and that's going to be our journey to have another baby. We still haven't done anything with his room. Everything is just the way it was, and it's just kind of everything's thrown in there right now. I don't foresee putting anything away. We're pretty determined to have another one. So that being said, whether or not this is the end of this kind of story that I get to tell y'all or not, we shall see. I can definitely update as far as our next journey is concerned, but for right now, I needed to get my story out. I needed to tell y'all about me and me being a mom and what that's been like. It's definitely not been what anybody else goes through, and every mom's story is different. It just seems like, so many moms have it so easy. They get pregnant, have a baby, go home, and they make it look so easy, and it's not. For so many people, getting pregnant is hard, and for other people, staying pregnant is hard. And then for people like me, losing a baby that very well could have been is the hardest. And he doesn't ever get to be. He'll never be a toddler or an adolescent or a teenager. He'll never, get good grades or bad grades or go to prom. He'll never get married. He'll never pick a career. He'll never get to have a dog or a cat. There's so many things that are just never anymore, because what he was is all he will be. He'll be our baby forever. And that's it. For me, that's enough. For me, that's all that I could ask for, because at least he's ours. He's our baby. So that being said, I'm going to leave it at that. If you've stuck through all of these, I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening and taking the time, and just hearing my little story. And if it helps, I hope it does. And if it's not something that you can really relate to, maybe you've learned something. Maybe there's something that you've learned about this situation or just people like me in general. So I hope that y'all enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing y'all again. Bye.